Hello, good morning, and welcome to this Dawn Busters challenge. You might hear the ice, the little fine particles of ice hitting the window. They say it's freezing now, 29 degrees. I was walking a little while ago, and still puddles of water on the ground. They weren't freezing, so I guess it's close to that. I have two non-age stated 45% alcohol rye whiskeys, and they're both from Diageo, the world's largest liquor company. One is from Indiana and the other is from Scotland. This is George Dickel rye whiskey. This is an older label. Right after I bought this, they came out with a new label. Not that different from this, but is different. Maybe that's why Walmart had this on closeout for $12.50. I'm not kidding you. I don't know why they would sell it that cheap, because it's definitely about twice that price. But I didn't quibble. I bought it immediately. They had the George Dickel Rye for $12.50, and they had the Superior 12. The 12 number 12 George Dickel for the same price. So for $25, I got two bottles. Sounds bizarre. It was bizarre, but I went along with it. Okay, this is chill filtered. Then it's charcoal mellowed. That's the George Dickel method. They pioneered chill filtering. So, of course, on their website, they're going to brag about how chill filtering is the best way to go. Now, other whiskey people will say, no, you don't want to ever chill filter it. It hurts the flavor and all of this. But you see, that's different. Ways of looking at it. Definitely. Got a nice embossed bottle, round bottle, iconic George Dickel. They were established in 1870. They may have been making a rye whiskey all along. Okay, they don't really talk about when this came out. A lot of bourbon companies will make a rye because they use rye in the bourbon generally, so they'll just make a mostly rye whiskey. Okay, just as an alternative for people that want a rye. And George Dickel did not even make their number 12 and number 8 recipes until 1964. They revamped their whole lineup. They used to have a product they called George Dickel Cascade Hollow. So they made the Cascade whiskey for years. I saw a bunch of old ads for it. But for whatever reason, they, as companies do, they wanted to revamp the lineup, and they did, and those became popular. And I don't think they still make Cascade whiskey, but then they might. You see, it might be one of those that they don't list, that they put on the market and located, isolated areas to keep the trademark going. Okay, so I might go to Kentucky and go in a store and say, look at this, George Dickel Cascade whiskey. All right, High Rye from Johnnie Walker, introduced 4 years ago, 2021. They decided to, and it's produced, there it is, the insignia. It's produced under a royal warrant for King Charles, King of England, Scotland, New Zealand, Papua New Guinea, Jamaica, Canada, etc. And it's got this certification as an official whiskey of the royal household. That doesn't mean that they actually drinking it. They might. I mean, I don't know what they drink. It just means that it's got this certificate, and it's a program they started back in Great Britain in the 1800s. Kind of like a competition where you submit your product, and they have a board that examines it, and if it meets the quality standards they're looking for, they'll give a royal warrant. Okay. And every 5 years you have to reapply, and they'll test it again. And sometimes you'll keep the warrant, sometimes you'll lose it. I was telling you that in an earlier video that Cadbury lost their royal warrant And another company, I think it was a cracker company, they lost their royal warrant. And the king, they said King Charles takes away their, this is a rubber stopper, takes away their royal warrant. But they never explained why they did it. But the speculation was because those two companies were still doing business in Russia and had factories running in Russia, and they weren't happy about that because they wanted them to boycott Russia. So to retaliate, they took away the royal warrant. That's the theory. We don't know that because the royal warrant is supposed to be based on quality, but it's not an obligation to give it to them. It's up to the king, whatever he wants to do. And I say he, that probably means the board, but he might have told the board just drop the certification. Obviously, most of the things done in England have to be done by the Parliament. Oh, there's the amber appearance for both. They're both amber honey. But there's some powers the king has that really independent of Parliament, like giving out, what to call it, appointing people to commissions. I was reading that on their UK.gov website. Like there's hundreds of commissions across England, you know, in Scotland, like educational, I don't know, just, and it's like people want to get on that. And they also hand out scholarships for colleges. So they were saying in the article, that's how the king uses his power. He'll say like, I don't interfere with the Parliament, even though the bills that affect my power have to be submitted to the palace before they even go to the floor for debate. And they have to receive what they call king's consent to go to a floor debate. And they were showing like over 1,000 times since he's been around as a prince, not even as the king. These bills were not, they were not given the king's consent, queen's consent back then. And they say he was mainly the one doing that. Like, I guess his mother, the queen, was saying, you know, you got to make sure these bills don't go through. And I know I'm not making it up because I was looking at the British website, United Kingdom website, and they were talking about, there's like a pamphlet they give, probably online now, but it was an actual paper pamphlet they give to each new member of Parliament, and it was how to make a bill, how to submit a bill. And there was a section where you had to send it to the palace at least 2 weeks before you were going to have a committee look at it in Parliament. And all of it. And I was like, oh, okay, they got no influence, but yet gotta, all right. But anyway, this is not a video about British law. It's just interesting. That's all, you know, no, I mean. Okay, so I'm going to show the websites. And we don't have royal warrants in the United States. But maybe they'll start official whiskey. See, he doesn't drink, but maybe his family does. Okay. Oh, yeah. And I was talking about scholarships. You see, that could have a big influence on bills, right? Because it's like you're in Parliament. You want your kid to go to college, but then you don't want to have to pay for it. And if you can scholarship to Cambridge or whatever, hey. But if you rub people away, if you want to stand up to the king, good, go ahead. But, you know, you not get that scholarship, might have to just pay for it. So they were talking about backhand power. They call it soft power. Like not out front. Out front, they go on Congressional Cake Week and go look at a new Lego factory behind the scenes. You know what I mean? Okay, our rye whiskey is one of the only ryes finished in the charcoal mellowed style. So they do drip it through charcoal, just like good old Jack Daniels, and they do charcoal filter it. It's a great choice in classic cocktail, old fashioned, and the Manhattan. Now this is them talking. This is not me talking. It's 5% alcohol, and it says Cascade Hollow Distilling Company, Tullahoma, Tennessee. Yeah, but it's not distilled there. If you look at the bottle, you can even see on here, if you look carefully, it says distilled in Lawrenceburg, Indiana. So it's distilled at Midwest Grain Products, formerly known as Seagram's Distillery. MGP is running it. They bought it, and they own Luxco. If you ever heard of Rebel, Yell, or Rebel whiskey, and well, there's a whole bunch. Lux World Distilling. Okay, fruit, cloves, cinnamon notes, long composed spiciness. I know about the spiciness. They don't talk about stone vitamin though, and I noticed that. Now this is 95% rye and 5% malted. But wait a minute, hold on, time out. That's the same as the Bolete rye. 95% rye, percent malted rye. You're right. So it's the same product, exactly. But there's differences. Bolete says it's a straight rye, meaning no coloring or flavoring added. If you look at this bottle carefully, it makes no claim to being straight rye. It just says chill filtered rye whiskey. Now, if you look at your regs, you cannot add flavoring or color into rye whiskey. But what about the barrels? Do they have to be new? I think so. Does it have to be aged at least 2 years? No. But then we know this is not aged less than 2 years or 4 years because it doesn't have an age statement on the bottles. That would mean it's at least 4 years old. So what's the deal on it? That's a good question. What is the deal? What is the deal? Well, the charcoal mellowing is a deal, and the Bolete doesn't claim that. Okay, let's go. So there's a difference somehow in the process. Here's Johnnie Walker High Rye blended Scotch, 60% rye. They say it's revolutionary. It is in a way because how many whiskeys coming out of Scotland are rye whiskey? Aged in American oak barrels, with single malts from distillery Sardu, and if you look at the bottle, it's a Tiana niche. The Good Witch of the North. No, Glen Kinchy, and a bunch of others that I don't. You probably won't want to hear all that. All right. And if you look at the bottle, it says first fill. What they say, ex bourbon, and then first fill American oak. Somewhere on here. First fill and refill American refill. Would they barrels from another whiskey company when they own their own American barrels? Make a whole lot of sense, would it? No, it would not. We're going to look at this. Now the price, like I said, Dickel, I'll look it up. I mean, I'll check. I know that the Johnnie Walker's $31.99 at Total Wine and More. Let's check Walmart. I'm curious about Walmart. Johnnie Walker High Rye. It's right there. It says it right there. Johnnie Walker High Rye. $20.27. It only went up 20. I bought this 2 years ago, and it only went up 28 cents. Walmart, big store, right? Big store, biggest store in America, biggest chain in America. $20.27 today. Not at mine because mine's closed because of the weather. But you know, no big deal. Tomorrow. Now, they might have dropped George Dickel, right? But let's see. George Dickel Rye. Nah, they dropped it. That's why they had it for $12.50. Oh, hey, well, can't complain because I got a deal and I've been sipping on this thing for years now.
Still got
30% of the bottle left, 33% of the bottle. George. But you wouldn't have to search around too long to find George Dickel Rye. If Walmart doesn't have it, somebody else going to have it. Total Wine got it for $25.99. $26 basically. And I got mine for less than half. I'm not saying that to brag. I'm just saying it because it's amazing. You know, it's like, okay, beverage and alcohol thing. Let's see. Color, flavoring, and blending materials. Let's go to chapter 7. I'll show it to y'all. I'll do a screen share real fast. And you'll see what I'm talking about. This is official. This is not me speculating. Oh, yeah, it must be that. I'm looking at it. See, now, people say you can't add flavor into bourbon. They're giving an example right here how you can add flavor into bourbon. Example, yellow number 5 to straight bourbon whiskey. Why would you want to do that? We don't know. Nobody would probably, but they're just theoretically. Okay. The resulting product is no longer bourbon whiskey. The product is now a distilled spirit specialty and must be labeled with a statement of composition, such as straight bourbon whiskey with yellow 5 added. That's why these companies will say, oh, no, it's not flavored bourbon. Bourbon with flavor added. That's legal. You say this is ridiculous. I didn't make the rules. And the flavoring materials must be natural. Essential oil, resins, spices, herbs, fruit juices, concentrates, essence, extracts, infusions, etc. And I have people tell me at least once or twice a year that natural flavoring is. I say no. A spice comes from nature. You grow it on a farm, and then they pick it like from a herb, a plant or something, or a tree. All right. Well, you can read all that on your own if you want to argue with me, but I'm not. You can't be 2.5% of the volume. Now there is a limit. You can't go above 2. Now let's go down to where they say whiskey here. Oh, and they'll say Canadian whiskey, you can't add flavoring, not allowed. But then there's a qualification on that. See, Canadian whiskey, flavoring, not allowed. But that's a meaningless statement because, like, it'll tell you in another section, Canadian is imported under the law of Canada. It's not imported under the law of the United States. So that regulation have no meaning to the Canadian whiskey because it's produced under Canadian law, not American law. Yet. I'm just kidding. All right. Now here's all the whiskeys. You know how many type of whiskeys they have? Okay. Let's go down to whiskey rye. Okay, whiskey rye. Flavoring, can flavoring be added? Answer, yes. Number 1 and 2. Coloring, flavoring added. And they got 1 and 2. The notes are all natural and artificial, containing not more than point of a percentage artificial top note. Now, if you go to straight rye, let's go down here. Straight rye. Straight. Whiskey, straight rye. Coloring, flavoring added, allowed? Answer, no. That's the end of that. No, it's not allowed. But regular rye is. Oh, well, what do you know? Well, what do you know? And that does not claim to be straight rye. It just says rye. Maybe that's why George Dickel has such an unusual flavor. Maybe the flavor is not from it. Maybe the flavor is from somewhere else in nature, not associated with whiskey. I do not know this. If you wrote an email to George Dickel Distillery and asked them that question and they avoided and they were trying to avoid answering the question, then you'd have your answer. Do you add flavoring to your rye whiskey? We appreciate your interest in our product, and we use a very specific recipe, and we always try to ensure the highest quality standards. And then you're thinking, well, they didn't answer the question. Well, then you got your answer. Well, this is starting to have that weird aroma. Not a bad. And I never said it was a bad aroma. I said it was weird. Yeah, it's different. Reminds me of a health food store back in 1978. This doesn't have any weird aroma. It just has not much aroma. Sort of a lack of aroma here. So left hand, a lot of aroma, bit strange. Over here, a lack of aroma, but nothing strange. Taste time, cheers. You can tell it's 90 proof. Woof. 90 proof is high enough for me, plenty high. Some people are into high, barrel proof, 130 proof or whatever, which is fine with me. I don't want it. I tried the old granddad 114. Did it have a good flavor? Yeah. It didn't make you gag. It was so strong. It was like, and I told my friend David, you could drink. I would never buy this. Mm-mm. Too strong for me. You say, but that's personal preference. That's correct. You're exactly right. And I've never said it otherwise. Honestly, I would rather have 80 to 90 proof and preferably 80 proof liquor, whiskey. Now, you might shake your head and think you're not a real whiskey sipper or taster because no real whiskey person would be satisfied with 80 proof. See, now that's going against your own argument. If you were saying it's personal preference, but you're not allowed to prefer what you want, that doesn't make sense. It's like people that go around saying individuals who drink light beer aren't real beer drinkers. They don't know real beer. They probably do. They don't want it. They want the light beer. I never had a problem with that. I just had a problem with people not giving other stuff a chance. That was my only issue back in the mid 90s. I would try to get my family like, try this. They would drink Coors Light, Miller Lite. Oh no, they never wanted to try it. That's the thing that would get me because they wouldn't even try it. It would aggravate me. Now only my father would try it. He would always try anything. Now he might tell you he hated it, but he'd try it. But the rest they wouldn't. He wouldn't try it. Then he gave up drinking 22 years ago, so that's not an option. He'll still smell it or he'll ask about it. He's interested in it. He'll say, "What do you think about this or that?" Or how you like that product, or what beer are you drinking? He'll ask. I know he's interested, but he doesn't drink. And at 80 years old now, he ain't going to start again. And why should he? You don't want to. Okay. Oh, this has a real traditional mellow flavor. It's so mild. Oh, so very mild. It's got to be the Johnnie Walker. It's got that smoothness, that mildness, that sophisticated flavor. It's just it tastes British style. Scotland is part of Great Britain, so that's still British. Wales, same thing. England, Northern Ireland, because Ireland is a British isle. Those are the British Isles, the Isle of Man, and all of that. Daddy Chill. Not his real name. Says, love the videos. Oh, thank you. All right, now back to this one in my left hand. A much more full, flavor forward flavor. You know what I'm saying? It's like a overt flavor. It's like, here I am. I'm George Dickel Rye. What you think? And then the Johnnie Walker's like, hello there. I'm Johnnie Walker High Rye. How do you like me? You like my flavor? And then George Dickel's like, it's good, ain't it? It's spicy. It's minty. It has a little of that Flintstone vitamin, a little bit. Not so much like the George Dickel Cascade Hollow in number 12 that I had, but I drank it up. It's a little loud, but that should not be interpreted as harsh or unrefined or anything like that. It's just a little loud. This one's more refined, more elegant. And that Johnnie Walker British, I don't know if they're elegant. That's just a perception. I know they have some rough blokes over there. Boorish fellows. I watch those British reviews, and they're cuss up a storm, cussing like they're in an R-rated movie. But, do what you want. Makes no difference to me, especially since your interests don't conflict with my interests. Okay. I think I prefer the George Dickel because I kind of like loud and out there kind of stuff. Flamboyant. Let's call it flamboyant. I don't mean Freddie Mercury flamboyant, you know what I mean? Or Elton John flamboyant. I don't want you to take it along those lines. But yeah, that just that approach. Okay, but not to that extent. As a comic, in all seriousness, though, I think it's really good, and I would recommend the $25.99. That's what you got to pay. Yeah, it's worth it. I wouldn't go much higher than that, but it's worth it. The $12.50 I paid, well, I know you're probably thinking you should have bought 2 bottles. What are you, crazy? Yeah, but I mean, you can't buy everything. I mean, I could afford it. I have the money, but I mean, what's the point? Would I have a house full of liquor? So I could say, look, I have a house full of liquor. Big deal. I've been to Disney World 12 times. That kind of thing. It's like, well, so what? You vape. We get it. You know what I mean? It's like a pointless point. And I don't want to do that. I do that enough. I don't do it on purpose. I do it subconsciously. All right. You have an oblique sense of humor, son. Okay. Wouldn't it be a shame if I was wrong? But I'm not. You know why? Because you can't mistake George Dickel for anything else. You may not like it. I do like this stuff, but it's unique. You can't say it's not unique. Nothing else tastes like George Dickel whiskies. And they spell whiskey with a K-Y, no K-E-Y. It's whiskey, W-H-I-S-K-Y. Just like in Canada and other parts of the British Empire. Whoops, sorry, I meant to say British Commonwealth. Sorry, folks. Really good stuff. Is it flavored? Well, no comment. JW, Jehovah's Witness. I mean, Johnnie Walker High Rye. It's a nice product. Some people are saying it's not a true rye whiskey because it's blended Scotch. Doesn't make any sense. This is blended. It's 95% rye and it's 5% malted barley. This blended, so it's not rye. So where's your argument? This is blended. It's got 3 components: rye, then wheat, and barley. They're probably all distilled separately and aged separately. And at the end of the show, they blend them and then put it in a bottle. So it's not rye. It's 60% rye. You send it to the United States, it would be considered rye whiskey. Assuming it would be aged in new barrels. Now, yeah, so okay. So they're using some of the aging is in used barrels. All you'd have to do is call it blended whiskey. Oh, I know you could classify it as high rye blended whiskey if you made it in Kentucky. Put it in the rye section with a green label. Everybody's going to know it's rye because it's 60%. Have I tried any Puerto Rico rums? Well, of course, many. But you're asking, did I try any when I was in Puerto Rico? I sure did. I found one that was, I never seen it in the United States, but it's probably sold here. Now, everywhere I went in Puerto Rico was Palo Viejo. That's one of the biggest brands down there, Palo Viejo. And then there were variants of Palo Viejo. One was a flavored. It was like a liqueur version, which seemed to be very popular. But I wasn't looking to spend a lot, so I bought one called Rum Boricua. Rum Boricua. Was it amazing? No. Was it delicious? Yes. Was it well made? You got it. And it's part of the official rums of Puerto Rico. It's one of their official rums of Puerto Rico, part of that trade association. It's aged at least a year. It has to be aged at least 1 year. There's no option. And I was very pleased with it. And I found out that the word Boricua means a person from Puerto Rico. I don't know how they come up with that word, Boricua, but that's what they said. You see, Johnnie Walker High Rye is one of those products that every time you taste it, it's better than the previous time. And that's a great product, because some of these products, whiskey or beer, every time you drink it is worse than the previous time. And that's not a good thing. But see, Johnnie Walker High Rye, you try it and you're like, wow, I got to learn more about this. And then the second time, it's like, oh, I didn't realize. And then the third, oh, look at this feature. The fourth, I didn't even think it had this. But look. And then the fifth, oh, it's really smooth. And then the sixth, see what I mean? Is that every time it gets better. And who could complain about a product like that? Why would you, So I think it's really fantastic. But you got to think on it while you drink on it. You can't be in a rush. If you're in a rush for whiskey, well, go ahead, be in a rush. It's up to you. It doesn't make any difference to me. But this is not a whiskey to drink when you're in a rush. You got to think, contemplate, relax. Just, you know what I'm saying? Just like think about it. And then it'll bring a lot of ideas into your mind. Now, of course, if you drink too much, it'll bring all kind of ideas into your mind, that the next day you won't remember. But you know what I mean? You just think on it. And I think it's so demure. And I know that was like a catchphrase last year, but that's a word I like because it's just so mellow and well done. All right. Lurk Claremont Gaming says, good morning, Ron. Nice to catch you. Bought Maker's Mark, 50 Canadian dollars here. Oh, I think I still prefer Buffalo Trace. Yeah. I don't really have a lot of experience with Maker's Mark. I tried the number 46 recipe, which I liked. Aged in French oak. No, there's a version aged in French oak. I don't think it's specifically aged in that. But I certainly would be interested in trying Maker's Mark, reviewing it, taste challenging it, and everything. I would, but I have so much. I just ranted about this earlier. I have so much bourbon that I can't do it. I cannot. It cannot be done. It's gotten so out of hand with the bourbons I have that it's become like a fiasco in a sense, because I've got many bottles that have never been opened, and they've been on my shelf for years, not months, years. I mean, enough's enough. I cannot keep buying. And then people give me suggestions every day. Oh, try this, try that, try this one. And I want to try them all. Of course, I want to try them all, but it's not possible. It cannot happen. Okay, last comments. So we got the winner, which is me because I got it right. But the winner between these two, it's hard to say. It's really hard to say. It's really, I would say, impossible to say. But you could save $6-7 buying the George Dickel rye. You could save that, and I don't think you're coming out worse. Now, if you go to Walmart, where I live, you can get this one for $20.27, and you'll never beat that price. I think I still prefer Buffalo Trace, and bourbon is just so pricey here in Canada. Now, you see in the United States, bourbon is cheap, generally. Now, you can go run behind a certain brand and wait out in the cold weather for 30 minutes so you can get your name on because your name is on the list and you can buy, big deal. But if you like doing that, that's fine. I'm not jealous on that. I just like to buy cheaper Scotch. You see, now in the United States, Scotch probably more expensive than Canada because we're not in the Commonwealth, and so that's a trade. There's a lot of trade benefits for that. Not an empire anymore, they say, but a family of nations, and they have trade agreements. That's why India wanted to stay in the Commonwealth. India, you might notice from history, India told King George VI, we really would like to have our own president that we elect, not a king from England, which most of us never been to England and never really actually asked you to rule over us. He said, okay, I understand that. Then his idea was, how about if I become the president of India? This was his counter proposal. How about, he said, what if I become the president of India? And they just said, what? They thought that was baffling, that he would make that proposal. But they said, no, we want to elect somebody from India, like a person from India to be our president. Okay, he said, okay. So they made a deal that they could stay in the Commonwealth, but they had to agree to certain provisions. It wasn't like totally you could do what you want. There were certain things. Okay, so then, but why did they want to stay in that? What was the advantage of it? Oh, trade. You see, the prime minister, I think his name was Nehru, he said, we don't want to lose this good trade agreement because we do benefit from it. And we get lower prices on international trade with England and Canada and Australia. And if we leave the Commonwealth, we have to pay taxes, import taxes like USA or France would have to pay, something like that. So they worked out an agreement, and then all the other countries since then, 1949, 50, have agreed to that. Okay, even if they want to elect their own president, they can do that. But they have to agree to certain provisions. Like they have to recognize the king as the head of the Commonwealth. Not the head of their country, but the head of the Commonwealth of which they are a member, you see. Maybe Donald Trump will do that. You see, Donald Trump, he's always thinking 3 steps ahead. So he might come out this week and say, we're going to join the Commonwealth. We're going back to the mother country. And even though I am the president of the United States, we will recognize King Charles III as the head of the Commonwealth of which we are a member. Can you imagine that? What? You talking about a guy that comes up with ideas that nobody ever thought of. So he's thinking out the box. So it could happen. Can you believe it? Okay. And then all the people in America that hate England all of a sudden would be like, we love England. I cry every time I see the king. Well, you hated him last week. I know, but Trump said so it changed. I'd go along with it. What the heck? Okay. Okay. Last comment. I said that a few minutes ago. I just buy cheaper Scotch if you can ever get that. Yeah, good point. I can get Scotch at the same price as Canadian whiskey. Really? Okay, never mind. I think the way the Commonwealth works is utterly genius. It is. Like you said, it was planned to happen since the 1800s. That's correct. To turn the empire into what it is today. That's right. People need to study their history a little better. Some people say, oh, they lost all their colonies. They planned to lose them. They weren't planning to lose them. They were planning to turn them into what they are. This was a plan that started probably in 1783, but definitely started in practice in 1867. I think it's the only way it has remained for so long. Yeah, if you were Trump, laughing out loud. I totally agree with renaming the Gulf of Mexico, says Craft Beer Tastic. The Gulf of America. Oh, well. What's your favorite beer, Ron? Hard to say. Can't say. Don't have a favorite. I like so many. You know, I talk to my Arab friends and such, and a lot of them agree, like Africa, Indian, etc. We did so many good things. Yeah. All right. So anyway, enough of that. Been going on for so long. It's very interesting. It's very interesting to talk about these products, and I think it's interesting, and other people just hate it. You know, they hate me talking about it, but it's the brands got more history than the actual product. You know, the product is nice, but then the history of the brand and how it relates to the country and import, export, and certain wars and everything. It's interesting in that way. So I love the research of the product almost more than the product, you see. And so being a person that made a career of history, government, politics, it's just definitely geared toward me. That every time I look at a different beer or wine or liquor, it's like an adventure, because then it's like, oh yeah, I forgot about that. We did. So all right, y'all take care now, and be back soon. With this weather, you may as well sit inside and do whiskey taste challenges all day long. But you know, then it'd be like 5 o'clock tonight. I'd be like, let me tell y'all something. Don't even judge me. You know, out of your head, talking out of your head. You know. It's -8 in Illinois, and I'm not leaving the house. Haha, Peyton says. Oh, I know. I thought it was supposed to become warmer. I've been hearing this since I was 12 years old. The world is going to burn up. It's becoming warmer, warmer, warmer. I'm like, well, what is with all the cold? This might be the coldest day in Louisiana ever, but it's warming. Okay. And then some people, they're clever. They'll say, oh, that's because of warming. See, the cold is because of the warming. I say, oh, you see, they don't even use the term warming anymore because that wasn't working. So they use the term change. Now, see, change can apply to anything. It's changing. Well, what does that mean? Well, it means whatever we want it to mean. It's just changing. Don't worry about it. Don't ask. If you question it, you're probably fill in the blank. The car windows froze shut. That sounds, oh, in Toronto. I know, I just hate it. I hate this cold. I hate Louisiana cold. Louisiana's too cold for me. So don't even send me to Mississippi because I'll really be frozen. When I was in Puerto Rico last week, it was 82 degrees. 82 degrees. I was walking around in shorts and a t-shirt with no undershirt. I had an undershirt. I was sweating. I took it off. I said, this is my kind of weather, and it's always 82 down there. But maybe they don't appreciate it. Peyton says, you're probably used to that cold in Canada. He said, but yeah, but the cold still exists. Right. Yeah, they have trees, but those are evergreens, right? All right, y'all take care. Bye-bye.